6 years. That's how long I fought to save a sinking ship. My family, my American dream. I'm Sarah, and this is the story of how it all fell apart, how I clawed my way back, and how I learned what home really means. Picture me, 35, 3 kids under 10, standing in my suburban kitchen in Austin, Texas, staring at a stack of bills I couldn't pay. The dishwasher's humming, the kids are screaming over a broken toy, and I'm wondering how the hell we got here. Ever feel like you're drowning in a life you built with your own hands? Let's rewind. 10 years ago, I was all in on the dream. Mike, my husband, had these big ideas: construction business, flipping houses. Sarah, we're going to be set for life. His grin was infectious, like he could will success into existence. We met at a dive bar on 6th Street, him in a faded flannel, me in a sundress, both of us young and stupid enough to think love could outrun reality. We got married at 25, bought a house in a cul-de-sac where the lawns hid secrets, and started a family. Lily came first, then Ethan, then little Ava. Life felt like a sunny afternoon, all barbecues and bike rides. Mike was a dreamer, always chasing the next big deal. He'd come home, eyes lit up, talking about some investor he met at a sports bar or a plot of land he swore would double our money. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my partner, my rock. I worked part-time at a daycare, mostly to keep the kids close, while he poured everything into his business. We weren't rich, but we were happy. At least, I thought we were. Then the cracks started showing. By 2019, Mike's deals weren't closing. He'd stay out late, networking, he said, but he'd come home smelling like whiskey and defeat. The housing market was shaky, and his investors were ghosting him. I'd find him at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., staring at spreadsheets, muttering about one more shot. Our savings dwindled. First, we dipped into the kids' college fund. Then we maxed out 2 credit cards. By the time Ava was born, we were $40,000 in debt, not counting the mortgage. I'd lie awake, heart pounding, wondering how we'd afford diapers, let alone a future. I tried to keep up appearances. You know how it is in the suburbs, everyone's watching. I'd smile at the PTA meetings, nod along when neighbors bragged about their vacations to Destin or their new SUVs. "Oh, we're fine," I'd say, gripping my coffee mug like it was a lifeline. But inside, I was screaming. The pressure to look perfect was crushing. I'd see posts on Facebook. Jessica, my best friend since high school, at some fancy wine bar, all laughs and highlights. I envied her freedom, her ease. Meanwhile, I was clipping coupons and praying the electricity wouldn't get shut off. Mike started pulling away. He'd snap at me over nothing, burnt toast, a kid's toy left on the floor. "Sarah, can't you keep this place together?" He'd bark like I wasn't juggling a million things already. He stopped talking about his business, stopped touching me, stopped looking me in the eye. I'd catch him on his phone, texting someone, but when I asked, he'd brush it off. "Just work stuff," he'd mumble, shoving the phone in his pocket. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. Have you ever felt the weight of a dream slipping away? That's where I was, spring of 2021. The kids were in bed, and I was folding laundry, the kind of mindless task that lets your brain spiral. I looked around our house, the faded couch we got for $50 at a yard sale, the dining table with one wobbly leg, and it hit me. This wasn't the life we planned. I thought about my parents, how they'd worked hard, stayed loyal, built something stable. What were we doing wrong? I kept telling myself, if we just hold on, it'll get better. But deep down, I felt it. Something worse than debt was waiting. I started noticing things. A receipt in Mike's truck for a $120 dinner at a steakhouse we hadn't been to. A call he took outside, his voice low, almost secretive. I'd ask, "Everything okay?" And he'd flash that old grin, but it didn't reach his eyes. I pushed it down, told myself I was paranoid. After all, we had 3 kids, a life together. He wouldn't throw that away, right? But the unease grew, like a shadow creeping across the floor. That's when I started losing sleep. I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying every fight, every missed payment. $2,300 for the mortgage. $600 for daycare, $400 for the car we could barely afford. The numbers spun in my head like a slot machine, never landing on a win. I'd think about Lily's dance classes, how she begged to keep going, and I didn't have the heart to tell her we might have to stop. I felt like a failure, not just as a wife, but as a mom. I leaned on Jessica a lot then. She'd come over with a bottle of cheap wine, and we'd sit on my porch laughing about old times. She was single, no kids, always had some wild story about a date or a trip to Vegas. "Sarah, you're a saint for dealing with all this," she'd say, gesturing at my messy house. I'd laugh, but it stung. I didn't want to be a saint. I wanted to be enough. Looking back, I see how naive I was, clinging to the idea that hard work and love could fix everything. I didn't know the worst was coming. Not just debt, not just distance, but a betrayal that would gut me. But that's the thing about the American dream, isn't it? It's sold to you as a promise, but nobody tells you how fragile it is. One wrong move, one bad choice, and it's gone. And when it breaks, it doesn't just break your bank account. It breaks you. Then came the call that shattered my world. Not debt, but betrayal. And if you're just joining me, I was a 35-year-old single mom in Austin, Texas, fighting to keep my family afloat. 3 kids, a failing marriage, and $40,000 in debt were already crushing me. But I had no idea how much worse it could get. Ever have your life flipped upside down by one stupid moment? That's what happened to me. And it started with a casual remark that felt like a punch to the gut. It was a humid June evening in 2021, the kind where the air sticks to your skin. I was at a kid's birthday party in the neighborhood, forcing a smile while Lily and Ethan ran around with balloons. Ava was napping in her stroller, and I was chatting with Kelly, a mom from the PTA. She was going on about her new kitchen remodel when she dropped it, all casual, like it was nothing. "Oh, saw Mike and Jessica at that new wine bar downtown last week. They looked cozy." She laughed, then moved on to granite countertops. I froze. My stomach twisted like I'd swallowed glass. Mike and Jessica? My Mike? My best friend Jessica? I played it off, nodded, sipped my lukewarm lemonade, but my mind was screaming. Jessica, who'd been my rock since high school, who knew every secret I'd ever had. Jessica, who'd sat on my porch last month, telling me I deserved better while we split a $10 bottle of rosé. And Mike, my husband, who was supposed to be at a business meeting that night. Kelly saw them. I felt like an idiot, like the last person to know a secret everyone else was whispering about. Have you ever had that moment where the ground just drops out from under you? I didn't confront Mike right away. I couldn't. I drove home, kids babbling in the back seat, and went through the motions: dinner, baths, bedtime stories. But my hands were shaking as I tucked Ava in. I kept seeing it in my head. Mike's grin, Jessica's laugh, their heads bent close over a candlelit table. I wanted it to be a mistake, a mix-up. Maybe Kelly got it wrong. Maybe it was someone else. But deep down, I knew. That receipt for the $120 steak dinner, the late-night texts, the way he'd been dodging me, it was all adding up, and I hated the picture it painted. The next day, I called Jessica. My heart was pounding as the phone rang. She picked up, all cheery. "Sarah, what's up?" I could barely get the words out. "Kelly saw you with Mike at a wine bar. Want to explain that?" There was a pause, too long, the kind that screams guilt. Then she stammered, "Oh, that? It was just, we ran into each other, had a drink. No big deal." No big deal? My best friend and my husband ran into each other. At a fancy bar while I was home cutting coupons? I snapped. "Don't lie to me, Jess. How long has this been going on?" She started crying, babbling apologies, but I hung up. I couldn't listen. Her betrayal cut deeper than any debt. Mike got home late that night, reeking of bourbon. I was waiting in the living room, the kids asleep upstairs. The TV was off, the house dead quiet except for the hum of the fridge. He walked in, saw my face, and stopped cold. "What's wrong?" he asked, like he didn't already know. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said, "Kelly saw you with Jessica at the wine bar. Are you sleeping with her?" His face crumpled. Not with guilt, but with annoyance, like I'd caught him forgetting to take out the trash. Sarah, it's not what you think, he started, but I cut him off. Don't! Just tell me the truth. And he did. 6 months. 6 months of sneaking around with my best friend while I was drowning in his failures. He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. I felt like I was outside my body watching someone else's life fall apart. Mike tried to spin it, said he was stressed, that Jessica understood him, that it didn't mean anything. Every word was a knife. I thought about the kids, about Lily asking why Daddy was always gone, about the $2,300 mortgage payment due next week. Get out, I said, my voice low, steady. He blinked, like he thought I was bluffing. Sarah, come on. Get out. He grabbed a duffel bag, threw in some clothes, and left. The door clicked shut, and I sank to the floor, sobbing so hard I thought I'd break. The next few weeks were a blur. I hired a lawyer, a guy named Tom who worked out of a strip mall office and charged $200 an hour I didn't have. We filed for divorce, and I fought like hell for custody. Mike didn't even contest it, too busy licking his wounds, I guess. I got the house, the kids, and a mountain of debt. The court papers listed it all: $40,000 in credit cards, $15,000 in back taxes, $5,000 in medical bills from Ava's ear infection last year. I'd stare at those numbers, wondering how I'd ever climb out. Ever been stabbed in the back like that by the people you trusted most? Being a single mom hit me like a freight train. I was up at 5 a.m., making lunches, dropping the kids at school, working 2 jobs, daycare in the mornings, waitressing at a barbecue joint at night. I'd come home at 11 p.m., feet throbbing, smelling like brisket, and collapse on that $50 yard sale couch. The kids were struggling too. Lily started acting out, mouthing off at teachers. Ethan clung to me, scared I'd leave like Mike did. Ava just cried more, like she could sense the chaos. I felt so alone, like the world was pressing down on me and I had no one to lean on. Jessica tried calling once, left a voicemail saying she was sorry, but I deleted it. Sorry didn't fix this. Money was the real kicker. I'd sit at the kitchen table, calculator in hand, trying to make $1,800 a month stretch. $600 for daycare, $400 for groceries if I stuck to generics, $200 for utilities, praying the AC wouldn't die. Every bill felt like a personal attack. I stopped opening the mail, just let it pile up on the counter, a paper monument to my failure. I'd think about Mike, probably crashing at Jessica's fancy condo while I was here, scraping by. The anger kept me going, but it was eating me alive too. Divorce was just the start of my fight. I was a single mom, drowning in debt with no lifeline. I'd look at my kids sleeping, their little faces so peaceful, and promise them I'd fix this. But how? I was exhausted, broke, and betrayed with no clue what was coming next. All I knew was I couldn't give up. Not for me, but for them. Little did I know, the real storm was still on the horizon, and it had a name: Marcus. At my lowest, a stranger offered me a lifeline, or so I thought. If you've been following my story, you know I was a 35-year-old single mom in Austin, Texas, barely holding it together. My husband, Mike, cheated with my best friend, Jessica, leaving me with 3 kids, a crumbling house, and $60,000 in debt after a brutal divorce. I was working 2 jobs, juggling daycare and waitressing, my life a treadmill set to sprint. Just when I thought I'd hit rock bottom, someone walked into my life promising salvation. His name was Marcus, and he was too good to be true. Ever meet someone who seems like the answer to your prayers, but something in your gut whispers, slow down? It was late 2021, and I was running on fumes. My days started at 5 a.m., packing lunches for Lily, Ethan, and Ava, dropping them at school, then racing to the daycare where I worked mornings. Afternoons were for waitressing at Smokey Joe's BBQ, slinging ribs and Lone Star beers until my feet screamed. I'd drag myself home at 11 p.m., check on the kids, and collapse, only to do it all again. The bills kept coming: $2,300 for the mortgage, $600 for daycare, $150 for the electric that flickered every storm. I was behind on everything, dodging calls from collectors who left voicemails like, Miss Thompson, we need to discuss your balance. I'd stare at my bank account, $87.42, and laugh because crying didn't change a damn thing. One night, I was scrolling Facebook, numb from exhaustion, when I saw an ad for a free financial seminar downtown. Take control of your future, it screamed with a picture of a guy in a sharp suit, all teeth and confidence. Marcus Reed, certified financial advisor. The ad promised debt relief, investment tips, and proven strategies for single parents. I snorted. Sounded like a scam. But then I thought about Lily's dance classes, how she'd cried when I said we might have to stop. I thought about Ethan's asthma inhalers, $80 a pop. I was desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. I RSVP'd. The seminar was in a sleek hotel ballroom, all chandeliers and free coffee. I felt out of place in my faded jeans and scuffed flats, surrounded by people who looked like they had their shit together. Marcus took the stage, and I swear he owned the room. Mid-40s, tall, tailored suit, voice smooth as bourbon. He talked about financial freedom, dropping stats like 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and you can break the cycle. His slides were glossy, full of charts and testimonials from people who'd turned it around with his help. I leaned forward, scribbling notes on a napkin. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Would you trust a guy like that, all Polish and promises? After the talk, Marcus worked the crowd, shaking hands, flashing that megawatt smile. I hung back, nervous, but he zeroed in on me like he could smell my desperation. You look like someone with a story, he said, his eyes crinkling. I laughed, awkward, and before I knew it, I was spilling my guts. Mike's betrayal, the divorce, the debt, the kids. He listened, nodding, like I was the only person in the room. Sarah, he said, handing me his card. You're stronger than you know. Let's get you back on track. He offered a free consultation at his office, no strings. I walked out feeling lighter, like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't doomed. His office was in a glass building off Mopac, all leather chairs and city views. Marcus sat across from me, sipping coffee from a mug that probably cost more than my grocery budget. He asked about my finances, and I laid it all bare. $40,000 in credit card debt, $15,000 in back taxes, $5,000 in medical bills. He didn't flinch. I've seen worse, he said, scribbling notes. We'll start small, a consolidation loan to lower your payments, then some investments to build a cushion. He pulled out a contract, pages of fine print, and my stomach twisted. It's standard, he said, smiling. I'll handle the details. I signed, ignoring the voice in my head saying, read it first. Hope's a hell of a drug. Marcus came through fast. Within a week, he got me a $10,000 loan. Low interest, he said, to pay off the highest rate cards. My monthly payments dropped from $1,200 to $800, and I could breathe again. He called it a quick win, said it was just the start. Over coffee at a hipster place on South Congress, he pitched the next step, an exclusive investment opportunity. Real estate, he said, guaranteed returns. He showed me photos of condos in Dallas, glossy brochures, and a spreadsheet projecting 12% annual gains. Spots are limited, he said, leaning in. I'm offering this to my best clients. Best clients? Me with my $87 bank balance? I was flattered, hooked. He asked for $5,000 up front, said it'd secure my spot. I didn't have it, but Marcus had an answer. Refinance the house, pull out equity. You've got $30,000 tied up in that place, he said, showing me comps from the neighborhood. Use it to invest and you'll make it back in a year. I hesitated. My house was the only thing keeping us stable, but he was so sure, so calm. He'd already saved me $400 a month, right? I trusted him. So I refinanced, took out $15,000, gave him $5,000 for the investment, and kept the rest for bills. He shook my hand, said, Sarah, you're building a future for your kids. I believed him. God, I was naive. Marcus kept me close after that. He'd text, how's Lily's dance going? Or drop by the BBQ joint with a just checking in. It felt personal, like he cared. He'd share stories, his divorce, his own struggles, making me feel like we were in this together. Once he bought Ava a stuffed unicorn at a fair, and she wouldn't stop hugging it. I'd smile, thinking, this guy's different. But there were moments, his phone buzzing nonstop, a vague answer about where my $5,000 went, that nagged at me. I'd push it down. He was my way out, wasn't he? By early 2022, I was all in. Marcus had me dreaming again. Maybe a better school for Ethan, a vacation for the kids. He'd call with updates. The Dallas project's on track. No specifics, just enthusiasm. I'd check my bank account, see the loan payments ticking along, and feel like I was finally winning. I'd tell myself, this is what climbing out looks like. I even started going to his seminars again, sitting in the back, nodding as he preached about seizing control. The crowds loved him, packed auditoriums, standing ovations. Who was I to doubt a guy like that? But hope blinds you. I didn't see the red flags, the way Marcus dodged questions about timelines, the processing fees that kept popping up. I didn't Google him, didn't ask for proof. I was too busy surviving, too grateful for his help. I thought he was my savior, the one person who saw me as more than a broke single mom. I thought he was my way out. I was wrong. Looking back, I see how he played me, his charm, his empathy, all calculated. He wasn't saving me, he was setting me up. And the worst part? I didn't even know what he was hiding or how deep his lies went. But that was about to change, and it started with a phone call I never saw coming. Something about Marcus felt too familiar and too wrong. I'm Sarah, and if you've been with me this far, you know I'm a 35-year-old single mom in Austin, Texas, who's been through hell. My husband, Mike, cheated with my best friend, Jessica, leaving me with 3 kids and a pile of debt. I thought Marcus, this slick financial advisor, was my ticket out, promising debt relief and big returns. But by spring 2022, I was starting to see cracks in his shiny armor. Ever get that gut feeling that someone's playing you, but you're too deep to admit it? That's where I was, and it was about to blow up. I'd given Marcus $5,000, money I pulled from refinancing my house for some exclusive real estate deal in Dallas. He'd sold it with glossy brochures and big promises, 12% returns, a future for my kids. But weeks turned into months, and his updates got vaguer. It's in progress, he'd say, or paperwork's tied up. I'd ask for specifics, contracts, timelines, and he'd pivot, all smiles, with crap like, Sarah, trust the process. Trust? It was starting to feel like a mark. Then there were the fees. $200 here, $300 there, always standard but never explained. My bank account was bleeding, and I was still drowning in $50,000 of debt, even with his so-called loan consolidation. The first real red flag hit in March. I was at Smokey Joe's BBQ, wiping down tables after a long shift, when I noticed Marcus's contract on my phone. I'd saved a photo of it, hadn't even read it properly when I signed. Skimming it now, I saw phrases like non-guaranteed returns and client assumes all risk. My stomach dropped. This wasn't the sure thing he'd pitched. I texted him, asking for a copy of the investment agreement. His reply? Let's discuss in person. Busy week. Busy. For me, his best client? I wasn't buying it anymore. Then came the call that changed everything. It was a muggy April night, kids asleep, me folding laundry on that beat-up $50 couch. My phone buzzed. Jessica. I hadn't spoken to her since I found out about her and Mike. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. Her voice was shaky, not the confident Jessica I knew. Sarah, I need to tell you something, she said. It's about Marcus. I froze. Marcus? How did she even know him? She spilled it. Marcus had been Mike's financial advisor years ago, feeding him bad deals that tanked his construction business. He's not who you think, she said. He preys on people like us. Desperate, trusting. I saw him at a bar last week bragging about some single mom he's got on the hook. Sarah, I think it's you. I felt sick. Jessica, the woman who'd stabbed me in the back, was warning me. I wanted to hate her, but her words hit too close. Marcus and Mike? My head spun. Why should I believe you? I snapped. She sighed. You shouldn't, but check his name online. Old lawsuits, forums, it's all there. She hung up, and I sat there, heart pounding. Was she lying to screw with me? Or was Marcus the real snake? I grabbed my laptop, hands trembling, and started digging. Ever have a moment where you know the truth's gonna hurt, but you can't stop? I typed Marcus Reed Financial Advisor into Google. The first page was all fluff. His slick website, LinkedIn, seminar ads. But I kept scrolling, past the paid results to the buried stuff. A forum post from 2018 caught my eye. Marcus Reed scam? It was a thread on a site for small investors, people like me. One guy wrote, lost $10K on his real estate fund. No returns, no answers. Another said, he pushed me into a shady loan, then ghosted. Found a lawsuit against him in Houston. I clicked a link to a court database. Sure enough, Marcus Reed sued in 2017 for misrepresentation of investment opportunities. The case settled out of court, but the plaintiff's story sounded like mine. Single parent, desperate, charmed into a bad deal. I dug deeper, heart racing. A Yelp review for his firm mentioned high-pressure tactics and hidden fees. A Reddit thread from 2019 called him a predator who targeted divorced women. Each post was like a puzzle piece, and the picture was ugly. Then I found it, a scanned document. Some old investor's complaint mentioning Marcus's partnership with a construction firm that went bust. The firm's name? Lone Star Builds, Mike's company. Jessica wasn't lying. Marcus hadn't just scammed me. He'd ruined Mike too, back when we were still together. Those failed deals that sank our savings, pushed Mike to drink, drove him into Jessica's arms, they weren't just bad luck. They were Marcus, playing us all like pawns. I slammed my laptop shut, tears burning. I felt stupid, used. Marcus wasn't my savior. He was my destroyer, a con man who'd sniffed out my desperation from day one. His seminars, his smiles, that damn unicorn he bought Ava, it was all a script. I thought about my kids, how I'd risked their home for his lies. $5,000 gone, plus fees, and a refinanced mortgage I could barely pay. I wanted to scream, to drive to his fancy office and smash his smug face. But I didn't. I sat there, breathing hard, and made a choice. I wasn't his victim anymore. I was done being prey. The next day, I called my lawyer, Tom, the strip mall guy from the divorce. He listened as I laid it out, Marcus's loan, the investment, the online dirt. Sounds like fraud, he said, but we need proof. I spent every spare minute gathering it. I printed bank statements showing the $5,000 transfer to Marcus's consulting firm. I screenshot the forum posts, the lawsuit, the Reddit threads. I even found an old email from Marcus promising guaranteed returns in writing, something Tom said could hold up in court. I felt like a detective, piecing together a case while still flipping burgers and changing diapers. Ever take a stand when you're scared out of your mind? That was me, fueled by rage and a promise to my kids. I started planning. Tom suggested a cease and desist letter, a first step to scare Marcus off and protect my remaining assets. I also stopped answering his calls. His texts went from checking in to, urgent, need to discuss your account. Urgent, my ass. I wasn't falling for it. I told Tom about Jessica's call, and he said her testimony could help, but I wasn't ready to forgive her, not yet. All I knew was Marcus had to pay, not just for me, but for everyone he'd bled dry. By May, I had a folder of evidence and a fire in my gut. I wasn't the naive Sarah who'd signed his contract without reading. I was a mom who'd survived betrayal, debt, and now this. Marcus thought he could break me, but he'd miscalculated. I was coming for him, and he didn't even know it yet. I wasn't his victim anymore. I was his reckoning. I'm Sarah, a 35-year-old single mom from Austin, Texas, who'd been through the ringer. My husband Mike's affair with my best friend Jessica left me with 3 kids and $60,000 in debt. Then Marcus, a snake of a financial advisor, preyed on my desperation, conning me out of $5,000 with fake investment promises. But I'd uncovered his game, his lies, his scams, his role in Mike's downfall. By May 2022, I was done playing the fool. I was ready to fight back for my kids and for me. Ever find strength you didn't know you had right when you thought you were broken? I started with my lawyer, Tom, who'd helped me through this divorce. We met at his strip mall office, papers spread across his desk, bank statements, Marcus's shady contract, screenshots of lawsuits and forum posts calling him a fraud. Tom leaned back, chewing a pen. "We've got enough for a cease and desist," he said. "It'll warn him to back off and protect what's left of your assets." We drafted a letter, short and sharp, demanding Marcus stop all contact and return my $5,000. It cited his misrepresentations and hinted at legal action. Tom's fee was $300, another hit to my $92 bank account, but it felt like armor. I mailed that letter certified, imagining Marcus's face when he opened it. My lawyer's letter was my shield, and I was done hiding. Next, I cut Marcus off cold. No more texts, no calls, no coffee chats. His messages piled up. "Sarah, let's talk." Then, "This is urgent." But I deleted them. I blocked his number, his email, even his LinkedIn. It felt good, like slamming a door in his face. I checked my accounts, made sure he couldn't touch the $10,000 left from the house refinance. I moved it to a new bank, one he didn't know about. Every step was a brick in the wall between me and his lies. I wasn't rich, but I was in control, and that was worth more than his fake promises. With Marcus out of my life, I turned to my kids, Lily, Ethan, and Ava. They were my why, my reason to keep going. One night, I sat on the floor with them, building a Lego castle on our $50 yard sale rug. Lily giggled, sticking a tower on crooked. Ethan rambled about dinosaurs. Ava chewed a plastic brick. I looked at their faces, so full of trust, and felt a peace I hadn't in years. I hugged them tight, promising I'd never let anyone hurt us again. That moment, with the AC humming and the Texas sun setting outside, was my real victory. Not money, not revenge. Just us, together. I started rebuilding small steps. I kept my jobs, daycare mornings, waitressing nights. Gritting through the long hours, I budgeted like a drill sergeant. $600 for daycare, $400 for groceries, $200 for utilities. I paid the mortgage on time, $2,300 every month, no matter how it hurt. I sold Mike's old tools on Craigslist for $150, used it for Ethan's inhalers. I wasn't out of the woods. $50,000 in debt still loomed. But I wasn't drowning anymore. I was treading water, and that was enough for now. Reflecting on it all, I saw how far I'd come. Mike's betrayal. Jessica's knife in my back. Marcus's con. They'd tried to break me, but they didn't. I was stronger, not because I was special, but because I had to be. I thought about the American dream, that shiny lie we're all sold. It's not a big house or a fat bank account. It's the grit to keep going, the love that holds you together. I was building my own dream, one day at a time, for me and my kids. I never heard from Marcus again. Maybe the letter scared him, or he moved on to the next mark. I didn't care. I'd exposed him to myself, and that was enough. Jessica reached out once, a text saying, "I'm glad you're okay." I didn't reply, but I didn't hate her anymore. She'd tipped me off about Marcus, knowingly or not. And that was something. Maybe one day I'd forgive her. Maybe not. What's your story of rising again? I'm no hero, just a mom who refused to stay down. If you're out there fighting your own battles, know this. You're tougher than you think. Build your own dream, piece by piece. Mine's still a work in progress, but it's mine and nobody's taking it away.